Hello everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the series that I called the level inspection. And today we'll take a look at the Tidal Wave, and we have a special guest today, the man himself, the GDEndy. The GDEndy is here, and together we'll just investigate this level.
Yes.
We actually have taken a look at this before, and we had a spicy reaction to it already, but to actually make your life better and not drain your sanity, we will go through it now and actually give you a well-composed, hopefully, showcase on what can actually be done with this level in order to make it better, less object-heavy, and what tricks you can apply for your own levels, so you actually can avoid mistakes like in this level.
Exactly.
So yeah, I already have a copy. Okay, so the first thing, why are we taking a look at this level? Is because actually a lot of you said that Tidal Wave is very laggy and it should be more optimized. Actually, after going through this level, we actually agree with it pretty heavily, and as you can see, this level has 255,000 objects, which is not that great for a 3-minute level that is actually that much decorated. For comparison,
Astral Divinity was originally more than that and just a minute 30, so not as bad as some levels, but still can be better.
Yep, that's why we are here. Okay, so we actually will start with the first thing, and it's the first thing that actually you can see now is the black screen that covers the beginning. And if you watch the previous video, you might actually have a hint of what's wrong with here. This entire panel it's 81 objects, and it is very bad. Let's be honest. So we can actually cut it down to like 4. So quick thing to actually change it is to just take just copy one of those square objects, base colors and layers and other important stuff, and just scale it to be really large. Like we can make it like, I don't know, 6 for example. Maybe bigger, like 10. And now we just place it together this way. We can remove the previous one and we can put it in the middle, and it's basically done. So we just change 80 objects to 4 objects. It was that simple. Actually, the edges here, you can actually optimize the edges here of this black screen as well, and it's actually a very simple thing to do. You just take like half of it, you delete it, and then you just scale it up. And you can remove this segment, and from 16 objects, it's now only 8. So that was pretty easy way to optimize this. You can remove this side and actually paste it on the other one, and this is basically done. So yeah, the next thing is the dot pattern, and actually Andy will introduce you to the dot pattern in this level because that's the technique that actually I think you have discovered.
No, I didn't discover it, but I saw it was previously used in another level, but then I just like used it for everything basically.
Okay, so you can actually explain it.
Okay, so usually when people made these dotted patterns, they originally used these object corners. Was like pretty popular with like star backgrounds and stuff like that. But what I discovered in that particular level is that you're simply going to take one of these 2.0 objects, and then you're gonna do a trick that Zim showed you in the Slaughterhouse video, where we're going to take just a random color and make it 0 opacity for the base, and then detail just any color you would like. And what this does is, since this is just a solid color, it will make the texture invisible and just leaves these 4 dots in the corners visible, which then means you can just copy paste these around and fill your background or whatever you want with those dots for not that many objects, because if you think about it, we now got here just 14, but if you would use the object corners, it would be like 4 times as much. So this is a pretty good technique that you can implement for many things.
This level actually is using it, so we can't actually do much with the dots in this level, even if there are like plenty of them. Like so many objects in this level is just dots.
Yeah, the only thing you could potentially do is just move dots which are like off screen to like another place and reuse them, but that would be yeah.
It's not worth the time.
Yeah, it's not worth the time really.
Okay, so if we're done with the dots, the next kinda like, it's not the end of the world, but it's kinda annoying that they didn't spot it earlier, because those spikes that you can see now, they're copy pasted across the entire level and they can be pretty easily optimized. This glow can be just removed because it doesn't make much difference. So we can just bump this brightness up and saturation down a little bit so it matches, and maybe just increase it, the scale slightly, so it looks similar. And now if you go to the inside of the spike, it actually has glow inside, but this glow is for objects, but we can swap it to just 2. All we need to do is just remove it and use this little spike. It already has a blending in it. We just paste the color to it and state and scale it down properly. It will create the same effect. And now you have got like the same blending effect, but actually more vibrant and a bit better. And I think this spike is actually looking better. Okay, that's how it should look like. Now it's like the optimized version. It has the blending and the spike looks more vibrant. So this spike has 6 objects compared to the other one, which has 9. So we just cut 3 objects from all of the spikes in this level. And if we count all of the spikes, there's a pretty heavy optimization, because the more the same objects you have in the level, and if you just optimize 2 objects in one of them and you apply the same technique to all of them, you save plenty of objects. It's crazy how many objects you can actually save with this. The next thing is the slopes in the structures, but that's the endy thing.
Yeah, so this is not, it's visually a bit different, but it still works pretty well. So what I would use instead are these deco slopes, because they have multiple lines in them. So if we just copy the value, turn it around and then scale it up a bit to fit the block space, we basically got a similar pattern with like half the objects, because this one uses this extra little slope at the bottom. But if we just copy paste those onto a block, that it basically looks almost similar. So here we have the optimized version and on here is the original, and this should make a pretty big difference if we're just gonna select all of the blocks that use this technique, and you can basically just take that number and cut it in half. So this would be a pretty great saving. And also one thing I've also noticed about this design are these gradient lines on the block, because these are just 2 lines stacked on top of each other, but you can pretty much get the same coloring by just decreasing the saturation on them. And they but if you really want to make it look as close to the original as possible, just decrease the saturation and then you pretty much have the same effect. So again, you can just see for yourself if you select everything and then just take that count in half. But I don't think these are all single objects, so it's just these lines. But the worst usage of these lines happens here at the orb deco. Using 32 objects per orb for this effect it's very bad practice. So the easiest way I would remake this design is I'm just going to the saw tab and I would take this thin rotating object and just disable the rotation if you so desire, but you can also experiment with having it rotating and maybe create a cool effect. And then also just copy paste the values and then just rotate it around a bit so you get the same density, and then you just put it on there. And we've just recreated the effect of 32 objects with 2 objects alone. So that would be a very big improvement, considering that this is put on every orb for multiple parts. As you can see, like up to here, this deco was used. So this is a pretty big improvement.
Yep, and it is a very recurring thing in this level, that plenty of optimizations that you can actually apply, very like prominent in the entire level. So we kinda will repeat ourselves through the level, because it's the same thing over and over again. But it's important to remember that. So the next thing that is very bad, And it's like the main source of wasted objects in this level is the filling of all of the structures. So we have the black filling of the structures. They're not hitboxes. So instead of 9 objects, we can just turn it to 1. Simply by removing all of those and scaling it up. And my GD just crashed.
Wait, what?
Yep, okay. I'll just open it. Okay, so I'm back after the simple crash. It was just GD. So like I said, we can just take this and scale it up like that. And we just saved 8 objects. You can apply it to pretty much every single thing on this layer. And it's like so easy. You just remove some of those, you scale it up, and it's done. It's so easy. It should not take long to do, but it's a must-have for this level. It will occur in every single section, in every single part for wave, for cube, for like every transition. This technique must be used in order to increase the performance of this level. Like for this pillar, you can go to the 3D objects and, for example, take this, and it will work just fine. You just need to scale it up a little bit, and it's pretty much done. You just use 2 objects for this. It's that simple. And there's no difference visually. It looks all the same, it's way more object efficient, and it's one of the greatest optimization that you can actually apply in this level. So yeah, that's like the most important thing to keep in this mind if we will go further. And the same goes for the water here. Actually, the water blocks are also kinda curious in this. Crazy, because they're on 2 layers, they're copy-pasted across 2 layers. So if you just unlink them, it should be done in a different way. You could technically just remove those and scale it like that. It will give pretty much the same result. If you want to keep the wave effects smaller, you just remove those, scale it by 2 times, and place it accordingly. This is more tricky because it is blending. We don't know exactly why it is blending. I guess to give some effect, but to be honest, if you just remove it, it doesn't make much difference. So I would personally just remove it and change the color of the base, static water color, to achieve the same effect you want. Because it's just doubling the colors for no reason. I guess the glow, you can add the glow behind the solid color water as well. So it has like no sense to add so many objects. I would just remove this layer, like so, and add glow behind it. So let me quickly show you. Okay, so it basically looks very samey. We just need to adjust this color. And if you still want this this like glowing effect, you can just add the circle glow. It will look pretty similar. Like very similar. It won't make much a difference, but optimization wise it will be way better. So yeah, the next thing is gonna be the star technique. That's Andy's thing.
Yeah, so this is a method that Kuluk actually showed me, and you wouldn't have guessed it at first glance, but it's a really cool technique. So we all know these kind of stars, they're like used since forever. It's made up of those 4 glow corner pieces that overlap a little. But if you want to make this more efficient, actually, you're going to take this specific 2.0 block. So, and what you want to do with it is you're just gonna rotate it. And now we're going to do the same thing I've already showed you, just taking a 0 opacity color, but this time on detail. And the base is going to be, again, whatever you want. And now you can see we have this star shape left of this entire block. So what you now can do is simply take it and then just take an ordinary glow circle and put it on top of it, and you've pretty much recreated a star. It's a bit thicker, yeah, but it pretty much gets the job done. So you can just take it. Yeah, it has a better shape. Yeah, it's a bit thicker. And also another thing that I've noticed about this part is the spike pattern in the background. And if your part sort of starts to look like this, where you have a repeating pattern for like eternity, there is a neat trick you can do. It's like what I like to call off-screen offset, but it has no official name. But what you're going to do is we just basically think of what is going to be visible on the screen right now. So let's say this chunk is visible on screen at once. So what you then want to do is you're gonna have like 2 to 3 chunks, and then as soon as this one moves outside of the screen border, you simply take a move trigger that moves it back to the front of the pattern. So then, as the background keeps moving on, it's going to appear again. So, and then if this chunk has moved out, you're gonna move it back to the front. And if you keep doing that, you can basically have an infinite pattern with just a few objects because they just keep repeating. And this happens a bit more often in this level, like here as well. So if you keep doing that, you can save just so many objects. So yeah, circles in this game are kind of cursed because I just don't know why a simple shape like an empty circle is not a separate object, but instead we have to deal with 4 objects every time. So this one, it does have minor visual differences, but what I'm going to use for circles most of the time is this rotating object. Now, yeah, you're going to need scale hike for this one, but I guess if you dive into optimization, you're going to have scale hike anyway. You want to disable the rotation and then just scale it down to size. So gonna have to be pretty small in this one, like that. And then to fill in the gaps, you just copy paste it and rotate it around 45 degrees. Now you will have some darker and some brighter spots if you really look at it, but considering how small this design is, you pretty much don't notice it. So we're just going to copy paste it once again, make it a bit smaller for the inner circle, and we're pretty much set. So now we just got 2 circles for half the objects, and now looking at the scale at which these circles objects are used, let's just do this. Yeah, it's 2000 somewhat objects, and are they used in different layers? Because if they are, they're gonna be a lot more. Yeah, back here, see they're being used again, so you can get a big saving.
Okay, so after we're done with circles, well, the texts in this level are straight up bad. To show you exactly what we mean, you can just take a look at the object count of simple letters. This is like 60 objects. And to not make it that object heavy, you could just simply use this. Let me show you. You can just make it like that. It's 3 objects instead of 10. Remove this as well, and you can apply the same technique pretty much for the entire text. Same goes for the arrows, and you can see how actually they're kind of scuffed. You actually can see it while playing that they have like those weird lines here. They kind of separated. That's because they're made out of the squares. So you can basically just take this object. So instead of 8 objects, you just use 2. It's a bit thicker, but that's basically the idea. And you can just replace all of them. You can replace all of them, and it will significantly improve this part. Same goes for this letter. It's made out of the slopes. So you have this object now. It's in the slope layer. You basically need to do this, and you have the same letter. You just use 2 objects for this instead of 14. So that's a pretty big save. For the D letter, the way they made the curvature for the D letter, that's also fine, but this could be optimized in the same way here. You basically use the same objects for the entire thing. The L is super easy to do as well. You just do this. So this is the new L. It's for objects now. You can do the same thing for the wave. The same technique used for the A. You just basically just do this and scale it. It's thicker, but you can just use double the length. It won't be as bold. And E is pretty much the same technique as L, and arrows are also the same story as here. So this text is pretty bad in the original, but it's also super easy to fix. We go to the wave, which is honestly not as bad as we thought it is. The biggest issue are those little spikes, and those little spikes are the biggest issue here. They're using 8 objects, and they should not use 8 objects. They use a lot of the small glow corner pieces, but we can just use 1, remove this, we go to the glow tab and we use one of those. We rotate it like so, and we put it here. Okay, and now this object, the spike is 3 objects now instead of 8. And considering that this spike pattern is also across all of the wave, now and in the future, this is a big save and honestly looks the same. It's 4 times speed, you won't see any difference, to be honest. You can't tell the difference really. I would argue it looks better. It's less junky, because glow is not like collapsing between each other. Also the same story as at the beginning. It is 22 objects, and that's pretty bad. For this pattern, because it is actually empty inside, it's a bit trickier, so I will get to it in a second. The easiest thing to do is to fix this one, because it is using like the slopes and regular square black objects. Okay, and that's how it looks. It is now 5 objects instead of 11. It's like the same issue as at the beginning, it should be done this way. And if it comes to this one with the empty inside, you can technically use the slopes here. You can do this. You can do it this way. Yep, and that's how it looks like. You can't really tell the difference. This one and this one. And it's just 8 objects versus 14. So yeah, and this is pretty much the same thing for the entire wave. Also the same story with the glow here. We have covered it previously in the beginning. And also glow inside the object, like this one. You can replace it with a single. This is for objects. So you can just replace it with one. Select this one, rotate it by 45 degrees, paste the same colors and values, reduce the saturation and increase the brightness, and you have pretty much the same effect. And you would have to apply it to all of the wave. In the next wave segment, it has the glows here, and the glows they're very bad. There's no way around it, they're very bad. 91 objects for a glow beam like that, it's terrible. Yeah, but maybe Andy can explain it a little more.
So yeah, this uses pretty much these small round glows to do it, but there's no way you're actually going to need it, because there's quite literally a slope glow for exactly this purpose. It's this one. You can even replace the inner line that's used here. Okay, so it uses this gradient line and then solid objects which are stacked, no, not solid objects, but like solid lines that are even stacked on top of each other. That's like absolutely and completely unnecessary. Actually, I've made a preset which also has like the rounded glows at the edges, so I don't have to deal with orienting those. So we're just going to copy the value, make them overlap with each other like that, and then just rotate it a little bit like that. Or actually, before you do that, for better alignment, keep it in that position, then make it about as long as it needs to be. And then you have made the same line with 8 objects instead of, what was it, like 90 something objects? Yeah, 91. It's just complete excessiveness. You do not need to use that. For these wiggled lines, I'm not sure how you would do that. Like, there's not really a way around using rounded glow, unless I maybe find something. I mean, this is not really the same thing, but what I would maybe do is just copy paste the circle a few times and make it like gradually less bright, so you sort of also get a gradient effect. But that's you can try it to see if it fits for you. But yeah, for straight lines, definitely use the gradient objects. They're like way better than doing this. Also, this wave, already explained it, I'm just going to mention it here. You can see we have this water across the entire part again. Like, yeah, if you notice your level is going to look like this in the editor, just do the off-screen method that I mentioned already. It takes like what, 200, maybe 300 objects at most, but you can basically infinitely fill your entire level with it by just placing a few move triggers. So this is just something that doesn't need to happen. And also here, again, repeating pattern. You can do all of this with basically one trigger because it all repeats itself. The spike pattern in the background as well. The ground spikes, they repeat themselves. This rocks in front of it also repeat themselves. Like, really, you just need to select 2 to 3 chunks and you basically have it for the entire part. And I don't know why this happened in this part, but why does this use the half for making a semicircle? Just, it literally is one object already available. Just, why was this used? It makes just no sense at all. Just put it here, make it a bit bigger, and then you basically have, it. Same thing, 3 objects less. It's just, there's no reason for it to be like that.
Also, in this level, effects are kinda scuffed the way the objects are using them. Like, you have those glow, let's call them glow lines, that just go to the player from top and below. This is not the end of the, like, 96 objects is not the end of the world. Don't need to change it. But the bottom one is pretty bad because it's 40 objects. And my idea to it is the same that I use in Slaughterhouse. We're gonna use the idea is we're gonna use glows that are meant for the slopes because they're longer. So we just get these ones and like that place them together. I just rotated them, give them the color, and now I can just remove this and replace them with the optimized one. And this is 15 objects versus previously 40 objects, and this is like way better, so there's no way to not use it, so I'll just place it above. Okay, art. Let's focus on the art.
So in this title screen, we basically have again the same glowing issue, just using those single block piece glows, but again, slope glows will just do a much better job of covering such a large area. Okay, here it's even worse because it's the half step glow. So if you want to use these slope pieces correctly, the main issue they have is you can't 100% rotate them to be straight. So the way I do it is I'm just going to flip them around and then just like try to match the edge as close as possible. Like, it doesn't get any better than this, but now since this one goes a little bit up and this one goes a little bit down, they're going to stay even across the entire length, sort of. So yeah, you just have to trick a bit with placement and stuff, but then you can use those long ones pretty effectively. And then like we covered what, a span of around 18 objects. Yeah, 4 objects. So this is how you use them, but if they don't really work for your design, then just use these a little bit shorter ones because you can align those perfectly. Same goes for the thing on top here, and also these in the background. Same issue here.
And we go to the middle part where the colors change. This part is mostly fine. The decoration and the blocks themselves are fine. They're like not much to talk about. But this is the same story as at the beginning, where the blocks that are used to fill the inside of the decoration. As you can see, those are 12 objects, and they're using the small squares again. So this is the same story. You just increase the size by 2 times. Like that, you just save so many objects. This is now 3 instead of 12. And you would have to do it across the entire level for all of those. Even here, this is the big issue. There's not like much to talk about that. Just it needs to be fixed, basically. Yeah, and this is the same story. The spikes again, those are the same spikes all over again. They need to be fixed along with the fillings for the blocks. The wave part here, it has the same issue as all of the previous parts with the spikes and the glows, but this time it also has extra issue with those little decorations. I don't know why, but they again used 2 glows for that, which is a waste of objects. You can just make it bigger to match the design, decrease the saturation, increase the brightness, and you have 3 objects now, and it looks the same. And it would have to be done for all of the objects. It's already so bright that there is no difference basically, and it might sound ridiculous to like reduce 1 object, but if you reduce 1 object for all of them, it will make a difference. Also, glow usage in those spikes is very bad. It is using 3 glows for each spike, so my idea is just to make 1 glow bigger, decrease the saturation, increase the brightness, so like that. It's not as bright, but come on, you're using 3 glows for 1 spike is not the way to go. I will do it like that. because this glow usage is a big concern. And also at this wave, there are now things inside that are a lot of objects. It's the same story as the entire level. They need to be fixed the same way as like I said, the same story is also in Slaughterhouse. Also, the way you could also optimize the corner pieces here. I mean, they're not corner pieces, but they look like. You could technically do this. That's kind of the idea I had. So you take this, you just scale it up, and you place it like further across. So it's gonna be like less objects, but it's still gonna have the dot pattern. So it's not 62 objects, but like 44. It could work, honestly, it could work. So yeah, that needs to be fixed as soon as possible.
Big problem here is again the water, because it has the same issue as the water in the beginning, where it's like 2 layers, but the blending layer does like next to nothing. And also, again, repeating pattern, use the off-screen methods, because it's getting a bit too much. If you have like the same pattern across like hundreds of blocks, you can save so much. That part, also circles again, spikes, previously mentioned already. Spike deco in the background, already previously mentioned, you get the idea. So yeah, the crystals, this texturing, it's very bad. You basically just have these 2.1 filling blocks here, like these. You've got 21 of them in one crystal. Mind that the crystal has the shape of a slope, so why don't you scroll a bit further and you will find the same texture, but actually the same texture in the actual shape of the slope. Like you can overlap some if you want to have that extra randomness, but if you just copy paste the values, you get like pretty much the same texturing for just 2 objects instead of 21. Or even if you don't like the looks of it, you can even make it smaller, put those in, but still you're going to have less objects than previously. So, and considering these are used across the entire part here, this will be a very big improvement. 3 glows stacked on top of each other. Just do this. Pretty much done. But yeah, basically looks the same. And again, spread across the entire part gives you bigger advantage. These seem to be okay. Yeah, again, the glow tip here can be less objects, but else the smaller ones are fine, but the bigger ones, they need definitely optimization. Effect glow lines, again, as mentioned, use slope glow, covers bigger area with less objects. Oh yeah, these are very bad. So these are like these arrow thingies that pop on screen, but they're made with those singular slope pieces, 4 to make 1, while there's an object that pretty much does this entire thing in one, and you find it on the first page in the decoration tab, and it's this one. So what you can do is scale it up, pretty much have the same result. It's not as thick, but even if you want it to be just a bit thicker, what you can do is copy paste it, move it down a bit, and then you have the same thickness but have the objects. And considering this effect is used a few more times throughout the level, like here for example, it's like how much? This gets rid of a lot of objects. And also here, slopes. Again, just use the slopes, does everything better. We got a repeating pattern again. Also, these structures, as previously all already mentioned, suffer from the same filling issue by using a default scale. As we have already said at the beginning, pretty much all problems we mention just spread across the entire level, which is not really a good thing, but also makes it a bit easier to point it out. So like you know at every part already what you need to fix.
Okay, so if it comes to ending, it's like pretty much the same story with the title screen at like the beginning of the level. The same issue with the font could easily be avoided. It should be fixed the same way that we have mentioned it previously. This huge white flash screen, it's also the same story. Basically, you just use the bigger scale squares. That's pretty much it for the level. It really shows that it was made by one person, because the same issue is spread across the entire level. All of this could be prevented at the beginning, if the creator actually knew all the tricks to optimize. It's also not a bad thing, because now the way to fix the level is pretty easy, because now we can just repeat the optimizations for everything. It might actually not be that hard to do. The creator of the level might actually have a pretty good hang of the level, so it might not take that long. So we hope that OnlyLink will actually take our feedback into consideration and he will actually improve the level.
If you guys want, you can maybe just comment what level you would like to see us take a look next, because there's like still a lot of levels that we could inspect, but maybe also just some levels that we haven't heard of that we maybe should take a look at. So yeah, it was really fun to be here.
Thanks Andy for joining me today, and we'll see where we get the next video out. And he'll probably be the be the guy who will just stay here for the series.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. See ya.
Bye.